My name is Manjo Oison, and I am your lecturer and course coordinator for Laws 12055, or the course in Constitutional Law. And I'm very excited to be with you to teach this course. And I hope that you're quite excited as well to start engaging with our course in Constitutional Law. I do know that a number of you are probably experiencing some form of trepidation in thinking that, oh, term one has started and you've got a lot of challenges, personal challenges that you're probably facing. I do know that a number of you are actually working, and a number of you may actually have family commitments, whether they're about taking care of family members or particularly your own children. And I know how difficult it can be trying to figure out, how do I manage my time? How do I even find the time to prepare for this course in constitutional law? And not just constitutional law, but the other courses I assume you're taking as part of the law program. And I just keep on thinking that how sad it is that if you look at the statistics in this law program at CQU, the attrition rate is quite high. In some cases, it can go as high as 44%. Meaning, in a cohort of students, for example, like we have about 80 students today, even if you go at about, even if you look at an attrition rate of, let's say, 40%, it will mean that going by past statistics, about 32 of you will likely drop out. And I find that alarming in the sense that because constitutional law, for example, is a prescribed course, it will mean that you will not be able to get a law degree from CQ Uni unless you actually finish this course. And to me, it's kind of unfortunate because by not being able to actually do this course or being unable to actually pass it, it means in a sense you will be foregoing your opportunity to become a lawyer in Australia unless you decide to probably take up law in some other university. But I assume that there is some advantage and some allure to doing your law degree in CQ Uni, and for one of those would probably be the idea that it's a very flexible program in the sense that it's done online, and in the sense that you don't really have to go to a physical classroom and meet with your teacher and your fellow students at a specific time each week. Now, there is, however, a problem or a challenge, as I'm sure a lot of you already know, in being part of an online learning environment. And that probably is one of the reasons for the high attrition rate, in the sense that being in an online learning environment, and I've been through this myself because I've been in an online learning environment when I did a postgraduate diploma in education, specializing in e-learning at Massey University. I know that being in an online learning environment is difficult because you're often socially isolated. You do things on your own, and there's just such a lack of structure that you often find difficulty, a lot of difficulty in just trying to break that inertia of staying still and doing nothing. And for you to take the trouble of having to go through your textbook or probably joining in a Moodle online session can be quite taxing. And so therefore, what I'd like to do in this video and the next is actually to go through the challenges of an online legal education and to walk you through some ideas that might help in helping you pass this course. And I would like to say that I find it disturbing, not only because, as I said, only about 40% of students typically pass a course, an online course, for example, at CQ Uni in our law program. That's one disturbing fact. But the greater disturbing fact, I think, is that in most cases, students are part of that attrition rate not because they're not intelligent or they have low cognitive skills. From what I gather, a lot of students simply drop out. So some of them would not take assessments, or some of them will not take will not sit in the final exams, and therefore, obviously, they don't get a pass. They don't get to pass the course. And I just keep on thinking to myself that if these students had just bothered to take the final exam, they would have had a good chance, or at least they would have stood a chance of actually passing the final test and therefore passing the course. And the idea that I'm trying to say here is that one of the things I would encourage you to develop is that desire to be persistent. Do not give up too soon. Now, I'm not exactly saying that passing this course is all about just sitting the test, even if you happen to be unprepared. Definitely not. As I will say in the next video, you do need to study and prepare for the tests and do all the assessments. But what I'm saying is that oftentimes the problem is, because you are facing so many challenges, whether it's about work or about families, then you say, I just can't find the time. And therefore, if I'm unprepared, I'd rather, give up and not do it at all. Now, what I'd like to say is that you just have to be persistent, as I pointed out, and you just have to put in the effort as well, and you have to be determined to finish this course. Now, I know you're busy. A lot of you are busy because you have a lot of concerns, but let me just tell you about my own experience. I never actually thought that I'd actually be able to finish my PhD at the University of Auckland, mainly because, maybe just like some of you, I was also raising a family of my own. I have a family of 5 kids. Imagine 5 kids. And one of them happens to be a 2-year-old daughter. And it's even more difficult for me because although I was doing my PhD at the University of Auckland in New Zealand, I was obviously therefore an immigrant, and I had to struggle financially. I had to put food on the table, so therefore I was working while I was doing my PhD. And even as I was doing it, even as I was doing my PhD, was actually doing I completed a postgraduate certificate in academic practice at the University of Auckland. And then I had to prepare for and pass the New Zealand Law and Practice exams to become admitted as a New Zealand barrister and solicitor to the High Court of New Zealand. So I have been there. I mean, I know the challenges of trying to get something done. And what I'm trying to say here is that there is simply no shortcut. You have just got to put in the effort. And that is what I'd like you to think about in a question that I'd like to pose. And that is, how can you prepare yourself at this time to ensure that you pass this course? And then, after thinking about that question, I'd like to proceed to talk about, the ideas on what we ought to do, or what you ought to do, in order to enhance your chances of actually completing this course and actually doing well.